Good evening and welcome to Horror Historian. My name is Amanda, and tonight we'll be discussing the 1964 adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's The Masque of the Red Death, a story that I always personally really enjoyed. The movie was directed by Roger Corman, who did a bunch of Poe adaptations. He's most known for The Little Shop of Horror, House of Usher, and The Pit and the Pendulum. He also produced a bunch of B movies, which was kind of iconic of him. The writers are Robert W. Campbell and Charles Beaumont. Campbell wrote Machine Gun Kelly. Beaumont wrote a bunch of Twilight Zone episodes that I thought were terrifying, specifically the ones titled Elegy, A Nice Place to Visit, Number 12 Looks Just Like You, Long Distance Call, and The New Exhibit. The stars are Vincent Price, Hazel Court, and Jane Asher. Vincent Price is a horror icon, to end all horror icons. He is most known for Edward Scissorhands, the Thriller music video, The Great Mouse Detective, The Raven, and Tales of Terror. Trust me, you know who this man is. Hazel Court is known for The Raven and a few episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Jane Asher is known for The Deep End, The Old Guys, and The Mistress. She is also very much alive and was about 18 when this movie was released. This movie takes place during the Middle Ages in a kingdom that is run by the very cruel Satanist Prince Prospero. We meet him coming into a village and just kind of wreaking havoc. He gives his guards the go ahead to kill people, and it's clear that he's going to play some sick games during this movie. As one can tell by that description, the people aren't thrilled with who has control over their lives. Two men named Gino and Ludovico stand up to his tyranny as he comes to their village, or at least they try to. An older woman reveals herself to have a plague called the Red Death. This plague is characterized by bleeding from everywhere, especially the pores. For the author of The Mask of the Red Death, disease was something that he was incredibly familiar with. Edgar Allan Poe's wife, mother, and brother all died of tuberculosis, and he was also very much alive for the cholera outbreak in Baltimore. Prospero decides to grab Gino and Ludovico and bring them back to his castle for entertainment purposes. He also takes the opportunity to grab Francesca. She is the daughter of Ludovico and has a romantic relationship with Gino. Those two are going to be kept in a dungeon, but Prospero is intent on corrupting Francesca and keeps her close by his side throughout the movie. Prospero, as I mentioned, is a Satanist, and he has a pretty cruel way in which he runs his court. His consort is named Juliana, and she is dressing Francesca up in some of the nicer clothes. The castle is where the nobility has gathered. They are being entertained by two dwarves. Juliana and Francesca have a pretty short conversation about Satanism. Francesca is pretty horrified by Juliana's determined to pledge to Satan, especially after she brands herself. And so this movie isn't just a telling of the Mask of the Red Death. They managed to wedge in another short story by Poe called Hop Frog, except they call him Hop Toad in this. Esmeralda is the dwarf dancer, and she knocks over the drink of a man named Alfredo. He ends up slapping her in front of the whole court. While Hop Toad doesn't seem to care in the face of Alfredo, he is secretly scheming up a plan that will get revenge on him. Prospero takes the time to show Francesca his plan for her father and her lover. They are being trained to fight to entertain the court during the big plague feast that he is looking to have. Neither one of them are actually interested in fighting each other, and Gino straight up says this isn't going to happen. But Prospero isn't going to leave them much choice, and they will be doing this survival entertainment for the nobility. Francesca, with some perceived assistance, manages to get to the dungeons, and she breaks Gino and her father out, or at least they think they are. They manage to take a few guards down, but they're ultimately captured. Juliana was never actually on their side, and I'm not sure why she was believed, but Hop Toad convinces Alfredo to dress in an ape costume for the feast, and this is all part of a much deeper plan. He tells Alfredo that Prospero would find the act entertaining. Although Hop Toad may be the official jester of the court, the nobility are also there for Prospero's entertainment. Everyone in the castle are at the whims of a man that does not care about a single one of them. The night of the feast begins with local villagers coming to the gates of the castle to beg for help. They are not safe from the red plague that is making its way through the countryside. Their desperation is extreme, and they don't leave when Prospero tells them to. They only get that one warning, and he orders their deaths. Only one person is saved, a young girl who was brought into the castle, yet another victim. Before the celebration truly begins, the battle between her father and Gino must go on. Except they are completely unwilling to fight each other, and in a surprising twist, because I thought it would be Gino, Francesca's father is the one that rushes forward to kill Prospero. But before he can do the honors, Prospero kills him. So Gino had survived the little game, and he is sent out of the castle, basically being handed a death sentence. The Red Plague has taken over the village he is from, where there are very few survivors, and at this point none because Prospero killed him. We also learned that Juliana has died after tripping out during her ritual to join Prospero's coven. She drank from a chalice and started to see these strange hallucinations, which definitely feels off in this part of the movie. She somehow ends up being killed by a raven, as Prospero doesn't seem that bothered with it, basically saying that she is definitely married to Satan at this point. Francesca, throughout all of this, is horrified by the way that Prospero treats people, but she's getting used to it. She's horrified that Juliana died so that she could join a cult in the afterlife. Francesca is absolutely the point of perspective for the audience. She's an innocent person dragged into this castle. She's glued to the main villain of this movie, and despite her fear, she never lets him think that he has won. She is as strong in her convictions as he is of his own. Let's wrap up this plot with Hop Toad and Esmeralda. He had convinced Alfredo to wear an ape costume, which is what he does, joking around and having fun, until Hop Toad enacts his revenge. He ties Alfredo to the chandelier, which is then raised above the group. He had poured alcohol on him when he was closer to the ground, and now he sets him on fire for the entire nobility to enjoy. And they freak out. That's pretty much the end of the plot line. Hop Toad was successful. Hop Toad and Esmeralda survive what is about to happen in the castle. Each room that the nobility have gathered in has a color: red, white, orange, blue, yellow, violet, and black. There may be a red room, but no one is attending the feast may wear red, except they absolutely are. There are multiple characters that you see in the scene, and I'm like, no, they're definitely wearing red. Like, it's not like any other, it's red. Anyway, a man wearing a mask and a red robe makes his way through the crowd. Immediately, Prospero is irate at the sight and follows the man into the black room. Not long after their conversation starts, Prospero starts to wonder if Juliana's sacrifice has brought an emissary of Satan to his party. It becomes clear, though, as members of the nobility start dying of the Red Plague, that this is not quite the situation that Prospero believes it to be. But I do believe that Francesca has caught on to what is going on. Even though Prospero has been nothing but a selfish jerk the entire movie, he does ask the man to let Francesca leave. It is approved, and Francesca gives Prospero a kiss goodbye, although it was certainly not what Prospero thought.
Francesca leaves the castle, another survivor of the night, along with Gino. So that's Esmeralda, Hoptoad, the young girl, those two, and then there's like an older man that I don't really remember. They're the only ones that are going to make it through the night. Prospero removes the mask of the man without his consent, and his eyes land on his own face covered in blood. This is not from Satan. This is something else entirely. A great equalizer, if you will. He attempts to run away, pushing his way through the crowd of infected people, but the Red Death follows him easily and corners him, letting him know that his soul has been dead for some time. He kills Prospero, and that is the end of Prospero's story, as well as the nobility that he had brought to him. The movie ends with the Red Death playing with tarot cards with the little girl. He is joined by several other hooded figures wearing their own bright colors. So the Red Death is not an actual illness. It does not actually exist. Unlike some of the other ones that are mentioned in this movie, Poe had a specific vision in mind, and it was just a grotesque way to die. The other deaths are as followed: tuberculosis, yellow fever, scurvy, cholera, influenza, and the Black Plague. The Red Death joins his brethren, and they walk into the darkness. The Red Death finishes the movie by speaking Latin, which translates to mean, "Thus passes the glory of the world." This is a phrase that has been historically used in papal coronation. In this context, it is certainly talking about how the world keeps moving despite the deaths. I personally really enjoy this movie. I know part of it is just that I'm an unapologetic Vincent Price stan. He really brings something to the screen that always blows my socks off. He's campy, he's fun, and he can be pretty damn spooky. The voice is iconic, and I'm never going to stop waxing poetic about this man. While I enjoy the inclusion of Juliana into Satanism in the terms of, the camp element, it really wasn't necessary. That could have been taken out, and Prospero could have just been an asshole. That his avoidance of the Red Death by shutting the sick out was nothing but the idea that wealth protects him from such things. The feast really works with the theme, and that they are so above death that they can celebrate and party. It's also very close to what I imagined when I was reading the short story. I appreciate the attention to detail and really putting effort into the set design. This isn't the best movie in the world. It's a little campy and goofy, but it's funny and fun, and sometimes that's all you can ask for from a movie straight out of the 1960s. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Would I survive? No, I'm not surviving the Red Death. That's the point of the Red Death. That nobody is immune to it. That is the point. So I'm toast.